Bertemu kembali dengan lebih ramai orang dan juga organisasi menggunakan penyelesaian digital termasuk untuk perkhidmatan kewangan. Ini dijangka meningkatkan risiko penipuan dan juga serangan cyber. Kajian daripada pelbagai organisasi menunjukkan tahun 2020 menyaksikan peningkatan risiko dan insiden penipuan termasuk dalam bentuk ransomware dan juga serangan ke atas data dan juga jaringan. Ini tidak terhad kepada individu dan juga organisasi, malah kerajaan tempatan dan juga negeri turut terdedah kepada risiko ini. Pada Jun 2020, serangan cyber ke atas pengeluar kenderaan Jepun Honda akibatkan operasi global syarikat berkenaan terpaksa digantung sementara. Ada juga syarikat yang terpaksa membayar wang tebusan untuk melepaskan jaringan dan data syarikat mereka yang diserang. Untuk membincangkan berkenaan serangan, risiko cyber dan juga digital ini terutama berkaitan perkhidmatan kewangan kepada pengguna dan juga organisasi, kita bersama Jared McDonald, pengarah penyelesaian serantau untuk penipuan dan juga keselamatan SAS yang bersama kita menerusi Skype dari Singapura. Jared, thank you for joining us. Jared, what is digital fraud today and how does it impact organizations such as the financial services industry?
Hi, Rizal. So let's break that up into two different sections. If we talk, the first one is e-commerce, which is people buying things online with their credit cards, for example. And the fraud there is where credit cards are stolen or the details are stolen so that fraudsters can buy goods online for their own advantage. And the typical things that they buy are refundable items that they can take back to a store and get cash back for, or transferable for cash, like vouchers. Apple vouchers was one that was a big one a while ago. And then the other type of fraud that we're talking about is digital banking fraud, where people like you and I go online to manage our own bank accounts. And unfortunately, fraudsters have become extremely smart in stealing our credentials and impersonating us online and taking over our bank accounts. And that's where you see the phishing attacks and the malware attacks and a few of these cyber things that you mentioned. The whole objective of any real cyber attack for an individual like you and me is to steal the credentials to enable them to take money using our bank accounts. And unfortunately, both of these are rapidly rising, particularly in Malaysia. In fact, PwC has just reported recently that Malaysia is rising far faster than any of the other Southeast Asia countries. So it's a real problem there. And for banks, of course, the biggest problem is they first lose money. It's money they can't recover from the customer. And even worse, they suffer from brand reputation damage because eventually it hits the press and people trust the bank less.
Jared,
so they're the main points.
And Jared, because of the COVID-19, do you think this trend is on the rise since perhaps last year?
It is. Actually, it's worse during the pandemic because the fraudsters are exploiting our vulnerabilities. We're all in a heightened emotional state during the pandemic. We either have losses to ourselves or to our loved ones, and we fear for our safety and welfare more than we've ever done before. And they're exploiting that with love scams, job scams, the Macau scam, which is fines and or pretending to be authorities. So these are more prevalent than ever. There are groups based in Malaysia who are aggressively launching attacks in Malaysia and actually where I'm based in Singapore. And there was even a case recently where one group managed to amass about $700,000 from all of these kind of scams online. So yes, we're more vulnerable. And if that isn't enough, there's also a new group coming online now, the unbanked population, the people who used cash previously who simply can't anymore because their movements are restricted and their ability to trade and communicate has been restricted. So they've been forced into this digital banking world, and they're the most vulnerable. And elderly, of course, because they're just not used to these protocols and controls and security measures that we, veteran online bankers, are used to, and they're more prone. So they have their credentials stolen more easily, and they become a victim, which is terrible, of course.
We'll talk about the consumer's perspective shortly, but how do financial service organizations perhaps can use advanced analytical capabilities to identify threats in real time? And do they have the resources to do that? And why are they the key target these days?
Well, it's a very good question. banks, it's the sheer scale. I mean, now that we've moved online into the internet, there are no geographical bounds anymore. Fraudsters or thieves don't need to walk into a bank branch to steal money. They can do it online, hidden, and have their identity hidden from the other end of the world. So the sheer scale of the attacks is beyond anything we've known in the past, and beyond anything that human beings can detect anymore. So we need to use machines to find the attacks, and not only detect them, but prevent them from doing anything in real time, within milliseconds. And the only way that you can really do that is with artificial intelligence and machine learning and all these advanced tech routines that we have now. We're also in a new world of a wealth of data. Now that we've moved online, there is more data than we've ever had before, and data is the perfect foundation on which analytics, machine learning and artificial intelligence can work. So we're more empowered than we've ever been before, and the technology is at a sufficient state of maturity that we can really use it. In fact, we're no longer at the stage where we should say, why should we use artificial intelligence and machine learning to prevent fraud? It's why not? Why would we not do it at this stage?
But the banking industry is a very conservative industry, and with millions of transactions being performed online, especially during peak periods of online sales, are they prepared to face this next challenge?
I think we're going through a rapid changing point right now. The banks in Malaysia are reaching out to specialists to find the best practices. They're reaching out to the consulting firms. And they're reaching out to the technology vendors like us to learn more fast. So I think we're right at that cusp where they're starting to use it to good effect.
Tell us more about digital fraud for banking customers or consumers out there during the pandemic. Are they? Tell us about their experience and how they're keeping themselves safe from the frauds out there and the scams out there. And because my parents, they don't want to do online banking, and they're a bit older. And is this a trend? And how do we perhaps change that?
Yes. Okay, so you're right. I mean, that we have different groups of users that are more vulnerable than others. And I would say the elderly are probably the highest risk area. That unbanked population that I mentioned earlier on also. And in fact, you get a combination of both. You get elderly people who are not used to online banking. And your parents, my parents would be right up there as the top most vulnerable list. Why? Because they don't get this technology. They're frustrated by it. They don't want to do it. So they reach out to everybody else for help. And they'll go around to the neighbors, knock on their door and say, can you help me with this online banking stuff? And the youngster will come along and help them. And they will write their user IDs and their passwords, and they'll hand over their phones with their one-time passwords and all of these things that are technically vulnerable. And they will willingly, if somebody calls up and says, your bank account might have been compromised, can we use your ID and password to test it? They'll be the first ones to say, yes, here's my user ID, here's my password, please go and fix it, take this problem away from me. And then before they know, of course, all their hard-earned life savings have gone. So yes, it's a real problem amongst particularly the wealthy and the unbanked population who just want to get this problem off their backs as quick as they can.
How do they protect themselves then?
Yeah, I would say the best thing they could do is be careful with your ID and your password and don't give it out and all of those things. But also be extremely diligent about the online banking statements or even printed banking statements. Check everything, because even that strange $1 transaction that you can't account for could be fraud. The fraudsters start by triggering small transactions to test the system, and then they start taking more and more behind the scenes. So you're actually doing the bank a favor by calling them up and saying, what is this $1 transaction? Is that really something that I did? Because the banks, once they can learn true fraud, once they can find the real fraud cases, they can tell the machine what to look for. And train the machine to find the more complex fraud. So you're actually doing the bank a favor by being extremely picky with every single transaction on your bank account statement.
And Jared, we have about 1 minute left. Jared, please share with us, because there are different components in play or involved in this whole entire ecosystem. There's the mobile phone, there's the telco provider, there's the user, there's the bank, there's also the law enforcement agencies. How do they keep track of each other, and can they work better together? Can they use blockchain, for example, to keep track of all these happenings out there?
Blockchain is quite new into the fraud world. I would definitely say transparency and accountability is key, and the regulators are driving that. Your central bank is driving the financial institutions to be more transparent about how they look for fraud, how they look for money laundering, and that information can be shared with the police that you mentioned. And the fact that they're following these standards should be a good sign for your consumers. The regulators are really working in the interest of your consumers, and if you don't see any reports about fraud or money laundering going on with your bank, then you can be reasonably assured that they're adopting best practices and doing as they're told with it. So really, there are a lot of background processes going on and a lot of background regulations. You mentioned in your previous interview about auditors. Banks have auditors too. And there are continuous controls that the banks can implement to monitor their own best practices and be transparent about it. So that's really the best approach in my view.
Thank you very much, Jared McDonald, Pengarah Penyelesaian Serantau untuk Penipuan dan juga Keselamatan SAS, yang bersama kita melalui Skype dari Singapura membincangkan berkenaan dengan serangan cyber penipuan atas talian. Thank you very much, Jared, for joining us. Dan kita akan berhenti di sini sahaja. Teruskan bersama kami di Astro Awani untuk perkembangan dalam dan juga luar negara. Dan pastikan anda ke laman web kami untuk ikuti info terkini berhubung vaksin COVID-19 di halaman Micro Interaktif astroawani.com sekarang, dan juga segala maklumat lain dalam astroawani.com dan juga aplikasi Astro Awani. Terima kasih kerana menonton saluran berita paling dipercayai di Malaysia. Saya Rizal Zulkafli. Salam hormat.